Hello, tonight. You find yourself floating just above the fabric of existence, nothing beneath your feet but swirling mist, and no stars above, just a vast silence waiting to be broken. The world hasn't begun yet. There are no cities, no humans, no coffee. Yes, truly a nightmare. But from this void, something stirs. So before you relax, consider liking and subscribing, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And while you're still awake, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe. Turn on a fan for that soft background noise. And let's slowly begin tonight's voyage. The mist begins to shift first, subtly. Then with growing confidence as the primal goddess, Gaia, the earth itself, rises from nothingness. Her breath forms mountains. Her heartbeat stirs the seas. Soon comes Uranus, the sky, cloaking her in his endless embrace. Together, they are the first great lovers of myth, which is romantic until you remember their children are literal cosmic entities. From this union, the 12 Titans are born colossal, radiant, terrifying. Cronus, Rhea, Hyperion, names that sound like ancient echoes yet to be whispered. But it wasn't just the Titans. Strange, powerful beings emerged to one-eyed. Cyclopes and hundred-handed hecatonchires, whose job applications for gentle caregiver are politely declined. Uranus, let's just say, is not winning father of the millennium. He looks down at his chaotic children and decides, like an overwhelmed babysitter, they're too much to handle. So he forces them deep within Gaia's body, causing her unimaginable pain. That's right. The first family drama in history wasn't at a dinner table. It was cosmic imprisonment. Gaia, fed up with being a divine daycare, fashions a sickle of unbreakable adamantine. She turns to her sons and whispers, "Who's ready for some good old-fashioned rebellion?" The only one who steps forward is Cronus, the youngest Titan, and arguably the boldest. He hides in the shadows and waits. One night, as Uranus descends to embrace Gaia, Cronus leaps forth. The sickle flashes, and the sky screams. In one motion, Cronus severs the power of the heavens. It's a lot. But let's just say, the stars were born from the pain, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love, is rumored to have emerged from the sea foam of what came next. Greek myths don't pull punches. This was their version of a surprise party. Historical fact. The ancient Greeks believed the world was born from a state of chaos, not in the modern sense of disorder, but as a vast, yawning void. This primordial concept set the stage for nearly every myth that followed. Marginal fact. Some Greek poets whispered that Gaia might have first birthed herself from the void. Yes, she was her own mother. Self-care goals, truly, and scholars still debate how literal the ancients took these myths. Were they sacred truth, cosmic allegory, or just the world's most dramatic bedtime stories? Regardless, Cronus now reigns over all. The world begins to take shape. Mountains settle, rivers flow, olives ripen. You drift above it all, watching from the safety of dreams as the story begins to build its rhythm. The stars you see tonight, maybe they're just echoes, memories of that first sky's scream, still flickering for those curious enough to notice. Cronus stands tall now, a titan crowned by revolution, ruling over a golden age where mortals few as they are live in harmony, untouched by war, disease, or taxes. Which, frankly, makes this the most unbelievable part of the myth. He rules, beside his sister wife Rhea, which, in true mythological fashion, isn't even the most eyebrow-raising part of this story. Time flows slowly under his rain fitting. Since Cronus is literally the embodiment of time, crops flourish, people age gently, and the heavens seem calm. But beneath that serenity, paranoia grows. You see, Cronus has inherited more than just power. He's inherited a prophecy. A whisper from the past warns him, just as he overthrew his own father, one of his children will do the same to him. Now, Cronus doesn't exactly go to therapy. Instead, he opts for preemptive parenting. Each time Rhea gives birth, he greets his newborn with a smile, swaddles them tenderly, and promptly swallows them whole. Yep, straight up gulp. It's less dad of the year, more ancient. Blender. One by one, the gods vanish into his belly: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, until only one remains. By now, Rhea is understandably over this entire arrangement. So, when she's pregnant with their 6th child, she decides it's time to play a little trick of her own. She gives birth in secret, handing the baby to the care of nymphs hidden in a cave on the island of Crete. In the baby's place, she wraps a stone in cloth and offers it to Cronus, who, true to form, swallows it without question. Either he's extremely trusting, or Greek titans need glasses. The child's name, Zeus. And unlike his siblings, he grows up outside of time's grasp. Nurtured by honey, goat's milk, and a group of very enthusiastic dancers called the Caretes, who bang their shields to drown out his cries. So, essentially, the first rock concert in history was organized to protect a baby. Historical fact, the myth of Cronus. Swallowing his children was so iconic that it echoed throughout classical art and literature for centuries, often symbolizing time-consuming all things. Marginal fact, ancient Cretans claimed the cave where Zeus was hidden could still be visited today, and some even left offerings there up through Roman times. Good luck explaining that to airport security, and scholars still debate what Cronus truly represents. Is he the oppressive force of time, a cautionary tale against absolute power, or simply a cosmic reminder that even gods need to chill back? In the cave, Zeus grows strong. He learns of his siblings' fate. He clenches his tiny fists, and while he doesn't say it aloud, you can practically hear the first spark of thunder brewing inside him. One day, he will return, and the golden age of Cronus. It's about to be interrupted by a storm. You float gently above that island cave now, hearing the distant crash of waves and the quiet hum of prophecy circling the air like bees around blooming time. The boy who would become king of gods is waiting, and the world itself seems to hold its breath. Zeus, now fully grown and with a beard more impressive than your uncle's midlife crisis phase, stands on the precipice of destiny. The world is older, heavier with silence, as though it knows change is coming. And Zeus, he's been practicing, not just lightning bolts though, yes. He's definitely been playing catch with those, but strategy, patience, and how to survive family reunions with dramatically high stakes. He doesn't walk straight into Cronus's throne room screaming, "Dad, we need to talk." Instead, he disguises himself as a humble cupbearer, slipping into the court like a whisper. One night, while serving wine, Zeus offers Cronus a drink spiked with a potion brewed by the wise goddess Metis. The result, well, let's just say Cronus has a bad reaction. He doubles over, retches dramatically, and up comes a neat lineup of fully grown siblings, alive, armored, and probably extremely confused. Imagine emerging from your father's digestive tract only to realize you've missed centuries of history and oat milk. But the siblings rally fast. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon now stand beside Zeus, blinking in the divine torchlight. And just like that, the war begins. It's called the Titanomachi. 10 years of storm and stone, gods versus titans. The earth trembling under every blow. Mount Olympus becomes the celestial HQ for the gods, while the titans bunker down in Mount Othrys. Think of it like the world's earliest and most dramatic family feud with boulders. The battles rage, but it's clear the Olympians need help. Enter the Cyclopes, the one-eyed builders imprisoned by Cronus long ago. Zeus frees them, and in gratitude, they forge gifts. Thunderbolts for Zeus, a trident for Poseidon, and a helm of invisibility for Hades. Suddenly, the gods aren't just family, they're an arsenal. And here's a twist. The Hecatoncheires, those 100-handed beings, also trapped by Cronus, join the fight too, hurling mountains like pebbles. Imagine dodgeball, but with geology, historical fact. The Titanomachi, while myth, mirrors the Greek worldview of old powers being replaced by new order, likely influenced by real transitions in early Mediterranean civilizations. Marginal fact. The name Metis, the goddess who helped Zeus, literally means cunning wisdom. She was also rumored to be pregnant with a child even smarter than Zeus, which made him a little nervous later on, and scholars still debate whether this war represents a generational clash, a shift in worship practices, or just the ancient Greeks processing deep, mythically veiled daddy issues. But for now, you drift above the battlefield, lightning flashing below, winds screaming through ancient canyons. You spot Zeus's eyes glowing, standing at the edge of the cliff with the thunderbolt raised. You wonder, briefly, what it feels like to become legend in the middle of chaos. Then the world goes silent, just for a second, and the next chapter begins, not with words, but with a roar. The battlefield still smolders from the last strike when you feel the world shift like it's holding its breath. Because now comes the reckoning. Zeus stands atop Mount Olympus, thunderbolts sizzling in his palm, while the titans reel below. The war isn't over, not yet. But this moment, this exact inhale of time, feels like the balance could finally tip. You drift through smoke and echoes, catching glimpses of Hades vanishing into Titan ranks, swinging his helm of invisibility like a ghost of vengeance. Somewhere nearby, Poseidon's trident cracks the ground, sending seismic waves through marble and root alike. It's not just a battle now, it's divine theater, and you have front row seats. But then, Cronus appears. He's not just a tyrant, he's a force of stasis, of keeping things just as they are. Wreathed in shadows and time-worn fury, he strides forward with a sickle that gleams with history. This isn't just father versus son, it's old world versus new, time versus change. You watch as the two face off. Zeus, radiant with fury and vision, Cronus, ancient and immovable. For a second, everything stands still. Even the Hecatoncheires pause in their stone-hurling frenzy, as if the universe itself wants to know who wins. And then Zeus hurls his thunderbolt. It strikes with a sound that doesn't just echo, it reshapes the silence that follows. Cronus stumbles, falls, and is finally chained in Tartarus, a prison so deep even nightmares get vertigo looking down. The rest of the Titans are bound to, guarded by the 100-handed ones. Zeus offers mercy to a few, like Oceanus, who stayed neutral. Because apparently, even in myth, Switzerland exists. Historical fact, in Greek myth, Tartarus was not just A place it was a sentient abyss, a primordial force older than the gods themselves, often imagined as the very bottom of the cosmos. Marginal fact: ancient Greeks believed that even gods could be overthrown. Prophecies and betrayal were so common in mythology. You'd think Olympus had its own reality show, and scholars still debate if the Titanomachy symbolizes the transition from agrarian, matriarchal cultures to patriarchal Olympian rule, or if it was just an epic bedtime story that got wildly out of hand with the war won. Zeus divides the world with his brothers like splitting pizza toppings. He takes the sky, Poseidon claims the sea, and Hades draws the underworld. No one picks the suburbs. You float through the newly ordered cosmos, past rivers that sing and stars that hum like lullabies. Olympus rises golden above the clouds, and for the first time in your long mythic journey, things feel quiet. But in that quiet, you sense something stirring, because peace in mythology, it never lasts. The clouds over Mount Olympus drift lazily now, like they've finally exhaled after centuries of tension. The war is over, the titans are chained, and the gods, well, they're nesting. You find yourself hovering above the freshly polished halls of Olympus. Marble gleams under eternal sunlight. Columns rise like frozen thunderbolts, and somewhere a nymph hums off-key while sweeping up golden laurel leaves. Zeus has taken his throne, which is less of a chair and more of a command center. It hums faintly, as if it's powered by drama. Hera, ever poised, stands by his side. She's not yet queen of Olympus, but the crown is coming in with it. A lifetime of celestial side-eyes and epic marital spats. You float through this divine household as it forms, slowly but powerfully, like a myth built brick by brick. Dionysus isn't around yet, so the wine is still manageable. But Athena's presence already simmers in the air, her essence whispering through strategy scrolls and silent wisdom. Then there's Hades, who's moved into his gloomy underworld flat. It's surprisingly well-organized classic middle sibling. He's got rivers that cry, a three-headed dog named Cerberus, and a lighting scheme that screams introvert but powerful. Meanwhile, Poseidon is busy remodeling the ocean floor, crafting palaces of coral and teaching dolphins how to be smug. And while all seems calm, there's still an undercurrent of tension, because even gods aren't immune to awkward family dinners. The air crackles with unsaid things, old grudges, strange dreams, a creeping sense that the Titan War might have ended too neatly. Historical fact: the division of the world among Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades was one of the oldest and most defining myths in Greek tradition, symbolizing the order of nature itself: sky, sea, and death. Marginal fact: some variations say the brothers drew lots to decide who got what, which is basically ancient Greece's version of rock, paper, scissors with existential consequences. And scholars still debate whether the Olympian rise reflects political shifts in early Greek societies or a deeper narrative about order conquering chaos, and whether Zeus actually cheated when drawing lots. It wouldn't be off-brand. You drift through this world like a soft breeze, catching whispers of prophecies yet to come. There are stories stirring in the shadows, names not yet spoken: Apollyon, Artemis, Hermes. You even hear rumors of a Trojan horse, though nobody's invented horses with storage yet. Still, tonight, Olympus breathes. You feel its pulse in the columns, the winds, the steady heartbeat of a world that believes for now that peace can last. But just as you settle in, a golden apple rolls across the floor of the great hall. You blink, because you know Nothing golden stays uneaten in mythology. You don't even have time to yawn before that shiny golden Achilles. That apple spins to a stop at the feet of the gods. Etched on its surface, in flawless divine handwriting, to the fairest .q, the universal groan. You're now backstage, at the mythological fashion show of the century, and the contestants, Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, one radiant, regal, and ready to ruin your peaceful evening with drama that echoes through eternity. Paris, a Trojan shepherd prince with cheekbones sharp enough to cut olive branches, is suddenly yanked from his mountainside nap and thrust into the role of cosmic beauty judge. Poor guy just wanted to herd sheep and maybe flirt with dry. Instead, he's got 3 powerful goddesses offering bribes that would make even a philosopher blush. You hover near the olive trees as the offers roll in. Hera promises political power and dominion. Athena tempts him with unshakable wisdom and glory in battle. And Aphrodite, she leans in, smirks, and casually offers the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen. Paris, being both human and hopelessly romantic, chooses Aphrodite. Naturally. Historical fact, Helen of Sparta, later known as Helen of Troy, was often considered a demigoddess said to be the daughter of Zeus and Leda. Her beauty was so profound that many believed she had the power to topple cities. Marginal fact, according to some versions, Helen had a twin brother named Clytemnestra, who would later become, well, let's just say she wasn't great at family dinners either, and scholars still debate whether the judgment of Paris was an allegory for moral choice, divine manipulation, or just really bad decision-making by a sleep-deprived shepherd. Now, back in Troy, wedding bells ring for everyone except Helen's current husband. Paris, with Aphrodite's invisible cloak of mischief, spirits Helen away, igniting a war that will span 10 years, countless lives, and at least 3 overdramatic sea voyages. The gods watch from Olympus with popcorn, probably ambrosia, placing bets and occasionally interfering, because what's a war without some meddling divinity? You drift through these moments as if riding on a soft breeze, watching a love story twisted into legend. Somewhere, Helen sighs against the Aegean wind, her fate stitched by hands she never saw coming, and the apple, long gone, but its echo lingers. The sea rocks gently beneath you, as 1,000 ships carve lines through moonlit waters toward a city that still sleeps, unaware of the storm to come. You find yourself aboard one of these great Greek vessels, sails taut and creaking, oars slicing rhythmically through the black Aegean. Warriors sleep, sprawled between amphorae and weapons, lulled by the lullaby of the tide, somewhere near the stern. Odysseus is muttering to himself, probably plotting a dozen new ways to lie convincingly. The Greek fleet is bound for Troy, summoned by a broken oath. See, back when Helen got married the first time, all her suitors swore to defend the lucky husband. Now that Paris has quite literally stolen the bride, well, time to dust off those swords and tighten the sandals. Historical fact, the coalition that sailed for Troy was said to include nearly all the great kings and heroes of the Greek world: Agamemnon, Achilles, Menelaus, and more, united under the pretense of honor, but also lured by glory and the promise of eternal fame. Marginal fact, according to some lesser-known accounts, the fleet was delayed for weeks because someone angered Artemis by killing a sacred deer. Always check for divine hunting laws before planning a war. Scholars still debate whether the war was truly waged for Helen, or whether she was just the spark that ignited a long-brewing competition for power between East and West. You stand now, on the shores outside Troy, where campfires bloom like orange constellations on the sand. The city walls loom in the distance massive, ancient, said to be built by gods themselves. Inside them, Helen walks slowly, cloaked in twilight, neither prisoner nor queen. Aphrodite smiles somewhere, knowing her promise has taken root. Hera and Athena sulk in divine silence, and the mortals, they sharpen their spears, toast to inevitable battle, and tell ghost stories under the stars, many of which won't feel so fictional soon. You curl up beside the crackle of one of those fires, the smell of salt and smoke wrapping around you. Like a tired blanket, far away a wolf howls. Or maybe it's just Ares, stretching before the bloodshed. Either way, the drums of war begin to beat, slow and deep, beneath your dreams. You wake to the scent of dust and blood in the air. Morning has come, and the first real battle outside the gates of Troy begins, not with a charge, but with a duel. Two armies hold their breath as Paris steps forward, hair too perfect for someone, about to get punched by history. Across from him, Menelaus, the wronged husband, the walking personification of I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Spears are raised, prayers whispered. The gods lean in. The duel begins. Paris throws first. His spear clinks off Menelaus' shield like a badly aimed insult. Menelaus retaliates, slicing Paris' thigh and nearly ending the war before lunch. But then, of course, Aphrodite intervenes. She spirits Paris away in a pink mist of divine favoritism, plopping him back in Helen's chamber. Dazed and sulky. Historical fact. One early truce in the war truly was interrupted by a duel between two champions, an attempt to end conflict without mass bloodshed, which failed spectacularly. Marginal fact. Ancient accounts suggest that during the temporary armistice, some Greek and Trojan soldiers actually exchanged gifts and shared stories, proof that even in war, humanity flickers. Scholars still debate whether the duel was ever meant to settle anything, or if it was simply pageantry to stall the bloodbath. Both sides knew was coming. As battle resumes, Achilles emerges, brilliant, wrathful, nearly glowing in bronze. His armor sings under the sun. He fights like someone already written into legend. Beside him, Patroclus watches closely, too closely, maybe. You drift from scene to scene like a feather caught in a storm, Hector, defending the gates with noble despair, Ajax roaring through the ranks like a walking avalanche, and the lesser men, so many of them falling into the dust with names no one will remember. Even the sky seems to dim above it all. The gods argue like children with thunder in their pockets. One wants Troy to fall, another demands it rise. You lose track of who sides with whom. Probably they do too. By nightfall, the ground is soaked in stories. You lie beside a wounded soldier who dreams not of victory but of figs, wine, and quiet mornings. You share silence, and the war dreams on. You awaken before dawn to the sound of oars slicing the dark sea like whispers in a temple. You're aboard a Mycenaean ship now, bronze-ribbed and humming with tension, sailing under a sky so starless it feels like a lid. A small raid has been ordered behind Trojan lines because sometimes war needs a little sneakiness. Odysseus is here, naturally barefoot, unbothered, and probably 2 steps ahead of the universe. Beside him, Diomedes' eyes sharp enough to cut rope. These 2 men are night's favorite sons tonight, slipping through shadows with the grace of cats and the subtlety of lightning. Their target, a Thracian camp, allies of the Trojans, freshly asleep and delightfully unaware that they're about to become part of a heroic footnote. Historical fact. The Greek raid against the Thracian king Rhesus is one of the earliest recorded examples of covert military sabotage, where stealing horses was considered more valuable than counting corpses. Marginal fact. Some tellings say Rhesus' horses were so pale they glowed in the moonlight, making their theft not just daring, but downright luminous. Scholars still debate whether this raid was driven by strategy or simply ego, a nighttime flex meant to rattle Trojan nerves and inspire Greek morale. The raid unfolds like music, quiet, efficient, almost elegant. Rhesus never wakes. His guards don't even gasp. Diomedes moves like a blade. Odysseus like smoke. They tie the horses, melt into the trees, and are gone before dawn even knows they came. You ride back beside them, feeling the sea shiver with premonition. Back at the Greek camp, the stolen horses are admired like holy relics. Someone tries to name one, Steve. The name doesn't stick. Achilles remains distant, still stewing in his tent. Patroclus, worried, watches from the shadows, like a candle too timid to burn. You feel the storm brewing not in the sky, but in the silence. That silence, louder than war. That silence, just before everything breaks. Morning comes heavy, wrapped in heat and the faint taste of iron on the breeze. You walk along the edge of the Greek camp, where the dust has stopped settling, as if the ground itself is holding its breath. Achilles still refuses to fight. The Myrmidons sharpen their spears out of habit, not hope, and then Patroclus comes to you. His voice is soft, always is, but there's something unspoken hanging off the edge of each word. He asks for your help, quietly, almost like he's asking you to keep a secret from the gods themselves. He wants to wear Achilles' armor. He wants to ride into battle pretending to be the hero who won't leave his tent. You try to talk him out of it. You mention destiny. You mention dreams. You even bring up that one time someone mistook you for a demigod and you tripped on a rock. But Patroclus is already gone. Not literally, yet. Just drifting toward his fate like a leaf caught in tide. Historical fact in the Iliad. Patroclus' death is the pivotal moment that finally breaks Achilles' pride and sends him back into battle. But it's also one of the most emotionally charged episodes in all of classical literature. Marginal fact. Some ancient vase paintings depict Achilles and Patroclus not just as comrades, but with affection hinting at deep love fueling centuries of discussion about the nature of their bond. Scholars still debate whether Patroclus' actions were driven by strategy, desperation, or a final noble foolishness. On the field, Patroclus fights like a whirlwind in borrowed thunder. The Trojans fall back, believing Achilles has returned. Morale fractures like brittle pottery. Hector, Prince of Troy, steps forward. You don't see the final blow, but you hear it in the cry that tears from Achilles' chest when he learns the truth. He emerges from his tent like a god burned awake, his eyes storms, his voice a blade. The gods pause. The war holds its breath again. Everything has changed now, and there's no going back.